Several states have proposed legislation this week that will promote solar and wind within those states. A polluted Superfund site in New Jersey receives a new life with a 17 megawatt system, solar system installed on that site. And solar robots may prove to be the future of vegetation control around solar arrays and perhaps other applications as well. I'm Jay Warmke with Blue Rock Station, and this is the news from the solar industry for the week of February 28th. Now, Vermont has begun process on House Bill 320, which prioritizes new renewable energy sources in that state. Basically, the argument there is that they've set these goals, but existing systems have not been able to meet these goals. So they're trying to incentivize the construction of new wind and solar within that region. What they've done is increase the amount of new solar that's required from 10% to 20% by 2030 and up to 30% by 2035. Now, they are saying that about 80% of all of the renewable energy used in the state of Vermont has to come from New England, and they are putting a cap of 40% on the amount of existing solar and wind that can be used to meet these requirements. So it really is trying to encourage new solar and wind development. The state of Georgia, with Senate Bill 210, seeks to expand solar and wind within that region, but specifically solar. What they're doing is looking at expansion of community solar into nonprofit and governmental agencies where they can aggregate their demand and create community solar systems for nonprofits, which has not been the case up until now. They're also allowing commercial businesses to install solar that will meet up to 125% of their current electrical usage. That gives them a little more leeway, a little larger systems. Speaking of larger systems, they've increased the maximum system size for residential solar from 10 megawatts to 15 megawatts. And they've also increased the cap for within the state for systems that qualify for net metering, really up from 0.2% of the population up to about 5%. Gives a little more expansion room for solar. But in exchange, they have allowed utilities within that state to charge a minimum $20 per month as an access fee for those people who have solar. CEP Renewables, along with NJR Clean Energy Ventures, have converted a New Jersey Superfund site into a solar array, a 17 megawatt solar array. Now, this site originally was a paper mill. These are referred to as brownfields or even blackfields if they're super contaminated. It was abandoned back in the 1990s and has been dormant, not providing anything to the tax rolls, plus being a site of pollution. So they've gone in, cleaned up the project, installed a 17 megawatt system on that site. Now, CEV is the largest owner-operator of solar arrays within the state of New Jersey. They have about 430 megawatts within their portfolio in New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. Swap Robotics has just received a $7 million startup grant, essentially, seed money grant, to try and perfect their solar robots that are used for maintenance of the ground cover around solar arrays that are out there in the field. Now, this is for the first time, we'll see these systems where the robots use 100% solar, recharge themselves. They can swap out the battery within 5 minutes. They can operate 24/7 at this location. The first time they mow the area or clear the vegetation, they map the system, and then from that point on, it can pretty much run autonomously. Now, you might think this is not a big deal, but actually within utility scale solar systems, Vegetation maintenance is the largest maintenance cost that they experience. In fact, it's projected that the cost that this will be a $50 billion industry, vegetation control around solar, by the year 2040. But if this works for solar, it could very much work for other applications. There has been a big problem, not only with the cost, but finding people to actually do this kind of work. And a new study by NREL, the National Renewable Energies Lab, has found that climate change, not only changing the planet, is adversely affecting renewable energy. Now, the issue here is that all of the outputs from renewable energy systems are projected based on historical data. And climate change has made a lot of that historical data obsolete. We start seeing more erratic weather patterns. We see higher heat, which adversely affects production of solar. And in drier areas, we see a lot more dust, which again cuts down on solar, causes up to 8% lower output from these arrays. Now, there will be winners and losers according to this study. The losers are going to be those places that have traditionally been good sites for solar, such as California, Desert Southwest. Some of the winners that we're going to be seeing are Europe, which is going to experience a little less cloud cover, and the Midwestern United States. And that's the news from the solar industry for this week. We'll see you next week.